What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be breaking down Bellator 261 Johnson versus Moldavsky, and this is going to be for the interim heavyweight title. Might as well just be the real heavyweight title because, I mean, Ryan Bader hasn't defended this for, I feel like, honestly, almost like 2 years. 2019, I think, was the last time that Bader defended the heavyweight title in Bellator, and he's currently obviously in the light heavyweight Grand Prix that they're doing, so he's not going to be defending it in the near future. So we got Johnson versus Moldavsky here. Should be a really good fight, and yeah, you know, whoever wins that very well could go on to be the real champ and defeat Ryan Bader when he comes back to the division. But without further ado, let's jump right into the fight. So kicking off the card, we have Chadwick against Simon Biyong at 205. So Chadwick is 26, 15-1. Obviously, that's a ton of pro experience, but he is 36 years old now, so starting to get up there a little bit in MMA years. He's fought in a bunch of different promotions. He had a fight in ACB. He had a little stint in Cage Warriors, and now he is in Bellator. So his Bellator losses have been to Fabian Edwards, and then he lost a split decision to Carl Moore as well, and he was able to come out victorious in his other two bouts. He's been doing lots of grappling lately. He actually had a grappling bout with Tom Breese, and he is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, so I feel like, you know, Biyong's definitely going to have to be a little bit nervous about Chadwick on the ground because he does have some submissions. That's probably the most dangerous aspect of Chadwick as a fighter, would be that grappling. So, but then looking at Biyong, 7-1, 6'6", 74-inch reach, he will probably be the much bigger man in the cage here. Definitely much taller. He's got the youth advantage as well by 6 years. Most recently, he was on Ryzen. He was on EFC before that. You know, Biyong has big power. He finished all 4 of the opponents he faced in 2019. But with that said, he hasn't really fought all that high level of opponents, to be honest. And Chadwick also, I wouldn't say, is especially high level, but still, it's probably a little bit of a step up. But yeah, Simon, obviously very powerful striker, heavy ground and pounds, got vicious elbows from top position. Not really the most technically skilled guy out there, but it really matters for him just because his physicality is so great, and just the power that he brings is so immense that, you know, it doesn't matter all that much most of the time. And, you know, he will have to be careful with the jiu-jitsu game of Chadwick, as I was saying, but ultimately, I'm going with Simon Biyong in this one. Chadwick has the jiu-jitsu skills to potentially find a sub, but I just see the physicality of Biyong overwhelming him and resulting in a finish ultimately for Simon in this one. So moving on to Taylor Johnson versus Lance Wright at middleweight. Johnson is 6-2 as a professional fighter. His 2 losses, you know, one of them came to Andre Muniz by submission on Dana White's Contender Series. It's Andre Muniz, guys. I don't think we can really hold that one against him. The other one was to Johnny Evelyn by decision on Bellator. So, you know, those are 2 losses that really aren't too bad. Both of those guys are real good fighters. He has a nice heel hook win over Ed Ruth that came on Bellator. That's a nice win to have under your belt. And Johnson, you know, he is an excellent wrestler. He's very powerful. He was a college wrestler and ended up becoming a national champion. He's a bit of a wild striker. You know, he's really just looking to close the distance and get those takedowns. You know, get it on your hips, get it on a single or a double or whatever. And he was able to slam Muniz actually with a double leg early in that Contender Series fight. And, you know, he landed some decent ground strikes, but Muniz is just so good off his back. He was able to escape and end up getting the back of Johnson. So, you know, Wright, his opponent here, Lance Wright, is a slick grappler, but I see Johnson still being able to stay safe in top position in this one. Johnson has, you know, he has a bit of jiu-jitsu himself. I believe he's a purple belt. And looking at Lance Wright, he's 5-1. As an amateur, he was 7-1. Nice record. He's faced pretty low-level pro competition, though. 4 of his 5 wins have been by submission. His 1 loss came by submission as well. And he's up against a wrestler here, so he could have some submission opportunities, but ultimately I'm going to go with Taylor Johnson. Johnson has just faced the better competition. He has an excellent wrestling base, paired with some pretty decent jiu-jitsu. So I think he's able to get the fight down, work some top position, and avoid getting submitted here. So give me Taylor Johnson in this one now. Moving on to Jalen Bates versus Cody Matthews at bantamweight. So Bates is 2-0. He has a big size advantage here, being 5'9" against Matthews, who's 5'3". Bates was 9-0 as an amateur. He is now 2-0 as a pro. Hasn't really faced anyone all that great, and if I'm being honest, I feel like he's not going to start in this matchup. I don't feel like Matthews is really super high level, although I'm not counting him out. Bellator really likes Bates as a prospect. He's only 24 years old. They're definitely priming him to be a contender. And Bates obviously has that dangerous submission game. He is a very good grappler. So looking at Cody Matthews, he's 1-1 as a pro. He's going to be much smaller coming in here. As I mentioned, he's going to be, giving up about 6 inches in height. And he also, more than that, is a 125-pounder naturally coming up to 135 for this bout. So I feel like that's just going to make the size discrepancy even greater. Matthews was 5-0 as an amateur, though. Some fights in Cagezilla and Virginia. He lost a split decision in his pro debut and has won his last bout via decision. Just not really much to go off of with Matthews here. I feel like he's definitely live, but I think that, once the odds come out for this card, I think Bates is going to be a pretty heavy favorite, and I feel like rightfully so. Matthews is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu as far as I know. But yeah, I'm picking Jalen Bates all day in this one. I think that this is kind of intended to be a bit of a lob for him. I actually do really like Bates' game, though, and I think that he has looked really good. And I feel like in this matchup, he's going to look good and maybe find a submission in this one. So give me Jalen Bates. Now moving on to Soren Bach versus Bobby Lee at 155 pounds. So Soren Bach 14-1. This is a nice signing for Bellator. Supposedly he had the option of either signing with Bellator or UFC, and Bellator gave him the better, offer and overall opportunity. Bach was a double champ in Cage Warriors, beating the ever-popular Paddy the Batty Pimblett for the 155-pound belt. And, Pimblett did have him in trouble early with a rear naked choke attempt, but ultimately Bach was able to overcome it and work his way to a victory in that one. So after that fight, he went down to 145. He won that belt as well. And his last fight was actually in 2019, and that was on a Bellator London card. So Bach, he does have a really well-rounded game. He's got that wrestling base, and he's very physically strong as well. I know that he's at least a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not sure if he's leveled up on that front at all in the meantime, but as far as I know, he is a blue belt. Submission and decision, that's usually his path to victory. He is dangerous when he gets the back. Most people are. But, he definitely likes that position. And now, looking at Lee, he's 12-5, 25 years old, coming down to 155 from 170. So we'll have to see what kind of impact that's going to have in this one. I do probably think that's, the right decision for him, being 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. I feel like he was slightly undersized at 170 in my opinion. And, he had a long LFA career with some ups and downs there. But, he fought some really good guys there in terms of, guys that you bump into on the regional scene. Fights against DeMarcus Jackson, Kilis Mota, and Macon Mendoza, who, all three of those guys are in Bellator now. And the thing is, he did lose all of those bouts. The DeMarcus Jackson loss makes me think that he might have a little bit of trouble with Bach here. Lee was the interim 170-pound champ in CFFC. And in his Bellator debut, he lost to Joey Davis. And, man, that is a tough fight to get in your Bellator debut, man. Joey Davis, really excellent wrestler, really strong guy. And Lee is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and he also likes the submissions, kind of similar to Bach in that regard. And I feel like he's probably the better pure jiu-jitsu player compared with Soren Bach. But, Bach's wrestling is very high level, and he's just very comfortable on the ground. So with Bach on top, I feel like Lee's ability to, work sweeps, get-ups, and set up submissions will be limited. So I'm going to go with Bach in this one. It could be a close fight, just considering that Bach is going to look to wrestle and Lee is comfortable off his back. But ultimately, I feel like Soren Bach is going to be able to have success on the feet and have success with his wrestling and find a win in this one. Now, moving on to Miles Jury versus Sydney Outlaw, 155 pounds. And I'm very interested to see what the odds are going to be on this one. I'm putting out this video. It's currently Monday right now, around midday Monday. So we don't have any odds out for it yet. I'm really interested to see what the books think about this one. But yeah, Miles Jury versus Sydney Outlaw. So we have Jury versus Outlaw. Kind of a funny coincidence with the names there. But yeah, Miles Jury, 19-5. Came up the Ultimate Fighter way back in 2012. Had a long UFC career where he went 8-4. He had losses to Cowboy Cerrone, Charles Oliveira. Then his last 2 UFC fights were both losses, and those were the other 2 that he had in the promotion, and that was to Chad Mendes and Andre Fili. So now finds himself on Bellator. He is 2-1, and the one loss on Bellator coming to Benson Henderson. So, his losses really aren't atrocious. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I feel that his striking is a little bit better than Outlaw, and that might be where one of the bigger skill discrepancies is for this match. I feel like the grappling is going to be close and competitive between these two guys. And looking at Sydney Outlaw, 15-4. This is a fighter that I also really like. He's also 2-1 on Bellator. Well, technically he's 3-1 because he had a one-off Bellator fight way back in 2014, which he won. So yeah, 3-1 in Bellator technically. But recently, in this current stint in the promotion, he is 2-1. But yeah, 3-1 overall. And that one loss was Michael Chandler. So I mean, that's really not a big deal as far as I'm concerned. And his other most recent loss besides that Chandler fight was to Gregor Gillespie, and that was on the regional scene. And that's a tough fight to have on the regional scene, man. Gillespie's no joke, and Outlaw is also a jiu-jitsu black belt, just like Jury is. And subs, decisions, those are mainly his main way to win. And I feel like if he can't really dominate his opponent in the grappling exchanges, he's just not as effective as a fighter. So I feel like it just might be difficult for him to do that against a fellow black belt in Miles Jury. So I'm gonna ever so slightly lean with Miles Jury in this one. Although I feel that Outlaw is very live in this, I just don't see a path to victory for Outlaw where he doesn't dominate grappling, and I just don't know if he can do that in this one. I think that Jury will land some heavy shots on him and be a little bit better standing, and I feel like both guys will be very competitive on the ground. So ever so slightly, I'm going to go with Miles Jury in this one. Now, moving on to Ovchynnikova coming up against Kyra Batara, and this is going to be at strawweight. So Ovchynnikova is 12-6. She's down here at 155 from 125. So interesting move for her, and she's going to have a 7-inch height advantage, 3.5-inch reach advantage. And she's got a good striking and kickboxing base. So I feel like she'll definitely have that advantage in this one. She lost her last two, but those were to tough opponents. Kate Jackson, Alejandra Lara. Those are, really good fighters. So can't really hold that against her too much. I feel like Ovchynnikova just overall has faced much better competition than Batara has. And, of her 6 losses, there's those 2 that I just mentioned. And plus she had a loss to Joanne Calderwood way back in the day. That's another tough fight. So looking at Kyra Batara at 8-4, she's given up a ton of size in this matchup. She is 4'11", just under 5 feet. And she's given up a fair amount of reach here as well, as I mentioned. And she's a jiu-jitsu purple belt. I think, a lot of these belt levels that I'm telling you guys today, it's up to my most recent report that I could find. But yeah, as far as I know, she's a purple belt. I don't know if she's moved up at all since then, but she has a lot of submissions, and whatever the belt level is, she's obviously able to apply it really well in an MMA setting, and I do believe that she's going to have the grappling advantage in this spot against Ovchynnikova here. She's had a lot of success in Combate, putting together a 6-0 record on that promotion. Her most recent loss was Kanako Murata on Ryzen, who we just saw in UFC just a couple days ago, just on Saturday. So I don't really think that's a bad loss, and she had another win on the regional scene against Cheyenne Buys. I believe that was when she was an amateur fighter still, but nevertheless, that's a good win. But, overall, most of her wins are not really over high-level competition, so I'm actually going to side with Ovchynnikova here, and I'm really interested to see what the bookies think about this one, too, because judging by the Tapology votes, it seems like most people are on Batara for this one, which I get. I feel like Ovchynikova's got the advantage on the feet, and Batara has the advantage on the ground, so I can definitely understand why people are on Batara here, but I'm going to side with Ovchynnikova. She's much bigger, possesses a little bit, better skills in the striking department, and I feel like that's only going to be bolstered by her reach advantage. I think Batara is definitely live for a submission, and, I believe she'll have some success in the grappling, intermittently throughout this fight, but overall, I just feel like Ovchynnikova, I kind of see her landing, the heavier shots, landing more damage, and just having more success standing, so yeah, I'm going to go with Ovchynnikova, also very slightly in this one. So we'll see when the odds come out if she actually is a dog or not. I feel like maybe she will be, but she also could be a slight favorite. But I feel like this one will be lined pretty closely. Now moving on to Christian Edwards versus Ben Parrish at 205. We were supposed to see this fight not too long ago. Edwards was not medically cleared, so now we have it on this card. And basically I broke this fight down for you guys already. I don't really want to repeat too much, but I will go just briefly into this one. Edwards 4-0, undefeated, 7-0 as an amateur and pro combined. He's got 6 finishes out of those 7 fights, all wins obviously. And, he's never been past the second round, though, and he's only 22 years old. He's going to be the bigger man here. I do like his game, and then looking at Ben Parrish, 4-1, really hasn't fought anyone too great. He hasn't fought since 2019 as well, and just in general, his fights have been pretty spread out. Going to be at a size disadvantage here. And to be honest, I feel like he probably isn't the toughest guy that Edwards has faced over his career, so I'm going to favor Christian Edwards here. I feel like, as I said in the last one, Parrish might be getting fed to the wolves a little bit in this one. I feel like Edwards is going to look really good in this one. So, yeah, give me Christian Edwards in this one now. But, I'm just going to add, just as kind of a postscript here, it's going to be interesting to see, we're not really sure what that medical issue was that got Edwards not cleared to compete last time. So I don't know if that's going to play in at all. But still, I feel pretty good about Christian Edwards in this spot now. Looking at Daniel Weichel and Keone Diggs here at 145 pounds. So Weichel is 40-12. Hasn't really been looking like his old self recently. Got tons of experience though, but he seems to be on a bit of a downward trend. But, to be fair to him, he's had really tough fights recently. Lost split decisions to Patricio Pitbull and Goichi Yamauchi. Got a win over Saul Rogers. That's a nice win. And most recently, he fought Emmanuel Sanchez in the 145-pound Grand Prix, and he lost that one. But, he put up a pretty good fight. I feel like Weichel has definitely fought the better competition of these two guys, but now on the back half of 36, which is only 2 years older than Diggs, but still, we have to take that into account. Weichel still looks like he's got some decent counter-striking, has some heavy shots land every now and again. I feel like he can just be a little hittable at times, really wasn't moving his head off the center line all that much against Sanchez. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, likes to grapple, very capable of locking up a submission. That's kind of his bread and butter. And Diggs is definitely going to have to be, careful in those grappling exchanges. But, Weichel overall still looks somewhat solid, so I'm really not ready to count him out just yet. But looking at Keone Diggs, 9-0, 34 years old, is going to have a slight reach advantage in this one. Undefeated fighter, obviously. He had a nice LFA stint, 2-0 on Bellator now with 2 rear naked choke finishes. And he's shown that he's a dangerous submission threat as well. He is at least a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, but obviously he's really effective with applying it in mixed martial arts. Nice takedowns, very active on the ground, looking to transition and pass. Pretty good boxing skills as well to go along with a very powerful left hand that he has. And his wrestling has also improved quite a bit over the years. He can land some heavy ground strikes and do some damage there. And I'm going to just ever so slightly lean to Keone Diggs in this one. Weichel just hasn't been on a great run lately, and I just kind of like Diggs' momentum and physicality coming into this one. There definitely is a path to victory for Weichel with the submission, but I feel like, Diggs is pretty good in top position. I'm not really confident in this one, but I am going to lean with Keone Diggs here, just slightly. So now moving on to Liz Carmouche versus Kana Watanabe at 125 pounds. So Liz Carmouche, 15-7, 37 years old now, and she has a very impressive resume, and she has a win. I repeat, a win over Valentina Shevchenko, which came way back in 2010. So, over 10 years ago now, but still, really impressive win to have on your resume. Just a nice stat to be able to have. You can say you beat Valentina. And Carmouche, she's been fighting for a really long time. She was on Strikeforce back in the day, had a long UFC career. And, her losses on UFC came to Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Alexis Davis twice, and then Valentina Shevchenko in the rematch. And that was actually her most recent UFC fight, was that loss in the rematch to Shevchenko. So, and she had nice wins on in the UFC as well. Jennifer Maia, Caitlin Chukagian, Lauren Murphy, Jessica Andrade, really good names. So Liz Carmouche, just a really impressive resume overall. And after that rematch with Valentina, she came over to Bellator, where she is now on a 2-fight win streak. So looking across the cage at her opponent at Kana Watanabe, who is undefeated at 10-0-1. Undefeated prospect. She's got a few Bellator scraps under her belt now. Spent some time on Ryzen before this, and the level just wasn't really that high of women that she's fought, but she just beat a talented Alejandra Lara. Personally, I scored that fight for Lara, but it was really close. I don't think it was necessarily that bad of a decision. Obviously, congrats to Kana on the win. And yeah, she has the youth advantage on Liz Carmouche here, with Watanabe being 32, Carmouche being 37. Watanabe is a judo black belt, so obviously she has very good judo throws. She's very physically strong, and she's got strong ground and pound actually down on the mat. She has some submissions. I don't really see her submitting Liz Carmouche in this one. And this is another one I'm really interested to see what the odds are actually going to be once they are released, because Tapology votes seem to favor Watanabe in this one. But I'm actually going to go with Liz Carmouche here. I feel like although Liz is kind of getting up there in MMA years a little bit, I still think she has something left for Kana here, and I think that Liz is just all around a more sound fighter and should be able to pick up a win in this spot. So give me Liz Carmouche. Not super confident, but I am going to lean with her here. Now, looking at Tim Johnson versus Valentin Moldavsky for the interim heavyweight title. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think it should be a really fun bout. Tim Johnson, 15-6. Obviously, with Ryan Bader in that light heavyweight tournament, these are the two guys that are stepping up here. So we just saw Tim Johnson pick up a win over Czech Congo. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now. He knocked out Tyrell Fortune in round 1. That's a really nice win. Had kind of a hot and cold UFC career before coming over to Bellator. Had some nice wins like Abdul Brakimov and Marcin Tybura, but as I said, it was a kind of a hot and cold over there. He had good fights though, good resume. Fought guys like Alexander Volkov. That's a great fight. Just good names to have on your resume. He has had some chin issues in the past, but recently he has been looking pretty steady. He had 3 round 1 KO losses out of 4 total losses between 2017 and 2019. But I don't think that Moldavsky KOs him easily, if at all, in this one. Johnson looked very composed and efficient in his last fight against Congo, but should be said too, Congo wasn't quite looking like himself at 45 years old, but Johnson does have a very solid wrestling game, good ground and pound, and he worked it really well in that fight. I think it's going to be more difficult to implement that kind of a wrestling and control-based approach against a Sambo specialist like Moldavsky, but Johnson will probably have a solid 25 pounds on Moldavsky in this one, as Tim, tends to weigh in a little bit closer to that 265-pound limit. And he will have the reach advantage in this one as well. But at age 36 now, he's going to be giving up, giving up the youth advantage to Moldavsky in this one. And looking at Valentin Moldavsky, who is 10-1, 5-1 as an amateur, and that one amateur loss was to Magomed Ankalaev. So I think we can forgive him for that one. Ankalaev is a very good fighter. Moldavsky spent some time over on Ryzen before coming over to Bellator. He had a win over Carl Albrechtsen there. That's a nice win. And, Moldavsky is 5-0 on Bellator now. Hasn't really faced the same level of competition as Tim Johnson, I wouldn't say, but training with guys like Fedor, the Nemkov brothers, Nikolai Alexeyev, and, many other talented Russian fighters over there at his camp. He's put on some more mass over the years. He tends to be weighing a little heavier than he used to back in the day, and I still think he's going to be the lighter guy here. I'd be surprised to see him weigh in over 240. I feel like he'll probably be in the 230 to 240 range come weigh-in day on Thursday. And, he has that very good combat sambo base. And, the same thing I said about Tim Johnson, he might have a little bit of difficulty implementing that game plan against Tim, just the same way that Tim might have a little bit of difficulty implementing his wrestling game plan against Valentin Moldavsky here. But Moldavsky, we just saw him beat Roy Nelson and Ayala, who are, around Tim's weight. I feel like Moldavsky is definitely going to have the speed advantage here. He's got the youth advantage at being just 29 years old, which in heavyweight years is quite young. He's weighing in, lighter. This also allows him to be in slightly better physical shape than Tim Johnson, and we kind of know the story on Moldavsky. Really great takedowns. He can threaten you with submissions from top position, but he does not have any finishes by sub in Bellator. Kind of more of a decision fighter, which is a little bit rare in heavyweight. He has 1 finish in those 5 Bellator fights, which came by strikes, and he's just great at maintaining control on the ground and very technically sound with his variety of takedowns. So I'm going to go with Moldavsky here. I like the younger man in this one. He's shown that he can implement that takedown-heavy game plan on heavier opponents, and although I feel Tim has been really good lately, I feel Moldavsky can do the same thing to Johnson in this one. I'm not extremely confident because I do feel like Tim can pose a threat and possibly win the fight. I'm definitely not counting him out, but I just don't know if I can go against Moldavsky in this one. So give me Valentin Moldavsky to become the interim heavyweight champion, and whoever wins this one, it's going to be a great fight with Ryan Bader once he returns to this heavyweight decision. So those are going to be my picks for Bellator 261 on Friday. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for being with me today, guys, and have a great day.